But let me tell you who wrote this article. This was the headline. Can you believe that? It's from MSN.com, and it says, it's written by, we got to make sure we call out the guy. Or the, Solar Quotes. Okay, Stephen Douglas. Stephen Douglas, are you here? Stephen Douglas. Okay, yeah, he's in the lunch line. Now let me tell you what he put. Mike Lindell is hosting a cyber symposium on election fraud today in North Dakota. North
Dakota.
Yeah, that's what he put. This guy put North Dakota. So is that fake news? He can't even, he's picking on North Dakota. What is he doing? This guy, let's really call him out. This is disgusting. Where's our Facebook fact checkers now? Stephen Douglas wrote this 1 hour ago. You know, let's see, you all been here. We've been live streaming in North Dakota on election fraud. Okay, this is on a crime of history. This is about China. He should put an attack by China on our country, but he puts election fraud. Much like the launch of his social media platform in the spring, there have been technical difficulties that he and his friends are calling hacks. You listen to how disgusting that is? What a scum. No, that's scum. He's scum. He's a traitor to our country. The day started, this is what people are hearing out there that aren't here. This is what they're hearing. The day started with Dominion dropping some new lawsuits. And if you want to see Lindell react to anything else over the next few days, stay tuned because he's already passed up lunch, proclaiming he would not stop streaming for the entire 72 hours. He's right there. One thing, I haven't had lunch yet, okay? Oh, and yes, we are streaming around the world for the next 72 hours. We're going to flip. There's everyone in the world. We're at 9 o'clock tonight, at 9 o'clock, the cyber forensic guys will be done at 5. They can come in here and watch the 4 hours between 5 and 9. You won't want to miss that ever. This is historical tonight. And then at 9 o'clock, at 9 in the morning, we're flipping this on its head. And now we're going to go, since we were attacked, we lost like an hour in the beginning. So what I'll probably do, probably go an hour here, and then we'll just add it on to the third day. We're not going to let them cut any time off this thing because of their hacks and what they've done. I just think this is disgusting. This just shows you what the media does. You know, you're out there now, I got, people sitting out there, and they look up the symposium, and this is the garbage they see. Mike Lindell is legit upset that some people want to break for lunch in his side. Okay, this is Justin Baragona, okay? Justin Baragona. Mike Lindell is legit upset that some people want to break for lunch in his cyber symposium, yelling that he's going to stay up on stage for 3 days straight. There's no breaks. You guys can go eat, that's fine, but I ain't eating. I'm staying here for 72 hours. Do you remember me saying that? Does anybody remember me saying that?
Yeah. You can sleep, we'll cover for you.
Well, the only true thing in there is I haven't eaten.
That's Lacey from Washington.
There's so much, here, I'm going to read this. Once again, this one's written by Justin Baragona. Oh no, now we're back to the other guy, Stephen Douglas. Stephen Douglas, let's not forget his name, everybody. Then he writes, there is so much incredible comedy in that 1 minute clip. Lindell's handed a paper, and then his assistants tried to pull him off stage to show him something which may or might not have been lunch. We know that lunch is involved because the guy says it's time for a lunch break. Lindell is having no part of that. There are no breaks. We're streaming 72 hours. This is disgusting. We're talking about something for our country and world, and this guy is doing a hit piece. Now, why? Let me tell you something, Stephen Douglas. You know what? The United States is at stake. Why'd you do it, Stephen? Why did you write this? Why did you write this? What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Are you going to write? You're going to write what Mike said now about you? I'll tell you what, Stephen. Go write an article right now. You're probably in our audience because you're here, but you're not going to show your face, I'm sure, because you guys are all cowards. You're cowards. You're media cowards, all of you. You're cowards. Not only fake news, but you're cowards. All of you back there, cowards. All the fake news and these journalists that sit behind and send in their hit jobs. This is what we're doing. This is a battle. We win this. We have all the evidence. You guys, that's a given. We have it all. If we don't break this media, and bring them back to reality, whatever they're doing. Some of them must be paid off. Let's just try and figure, why would Stephen Douglas do this? Let's ask ourselves, does he not like our country? He doesn't like Mike Lindell because I was a Christian conservative. And I realize I had never voted in my life. Do you guys know I was an ex-crack addict, an ex-addict. I met Donald Trump. And it was so common sense. I go, wow, that's what politicians should be, for the people, and do stuff that when they have a problem solution, that they make decisions based on helping people, all people. That's the way it should be. But we lost that with our election now, or not because we lost Donald Trump, because they took it with machines. China's here. So you got to ask yourself, is Stephen Douglas a communist? I don't know. You got to look at when you have a
Let's bring him up.
When you have deviations like this, a deviation, why would this guy do this? Why would he do this? Either his boss won't let him write with the truth, or he's part of the attack, or what? Or he just likes because I got his name called out. He didn't expect that, so it couldn't have been that. But this we're going to do. So we got to ask anybody that knows Stephen Douglas, say, why would you do such a thing? On a historical week of 3 days. We're trying to save our country. This isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. This is our country. This is the world. If they take us now, you want to be Venezuela? Is that what you want? Stephen Douglas? Venezuela now. The machines took their country in 2003 or 4. And they're sitting down, they never get it back. Their hope, I've talked to some, their hope is that they've been praying for years that in our country that we catch them. Because this is a global thing, everybody. This is you're going to see Brazil is going to be here. We're going to have many countries that are worried. I'm going to pull one more just in case.
While you're doing that, I just was notified my TikTok account came down. So
they took your TikTok down. By the communist TikTok. They just took his TikTok down. You guys see what they're doing right now? What they're doing, everyone that's up here, because the more we get into it, and I'm telling you, 7 o'clock tonight, everybody in the world, you better be tuned in. Because you know what? They're going to keep clawing. They're going to keep attacking what I put up on frankspeech.com. By the way, if you're overseas and you can't get in there, go to lindelltv.com. I've got backups to backups, but this is getting out. Our message is getting out.
Yeah.
It's getting out, and we're going to get it out there in spite of these, but we're going to call out all the things, the people that have done that. They took away your TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't care.
This is why we let you in here. We didn't put names on your tags. We didn't put names on you. Because you know what? They'd have probably attacked and took your Facebooks down, but we need them to get out there.
One thing to think about, folks. See, what we're doing is we're calling the snake news bluff. Because there's another component we haven't talked about at all. You've got the air game, right? As Bannon has coined it, that Mike's in charge of. If you don't believe the data that you just saw with Dr. Frank, let us get our full forensic audits. Let us do our canvases. Right? Either he's telling the truth and we can back it up, or we can't. So ask yourself, why is it that in certain states you've got attorney generals like Dana Nessel who are weaponizing our rules against attorneys to get them to lose their law license?
Okay, here we go. This is a Media Matters, written by Zachary Pleat and Eric Kleefeld. Okay, and hold on. It says, here are the right-wing outlets that promoted Mike Lindell's cyber symposium of the election lies. This was before we started, everybody. Right-wing pillow magnet Mike Lindell, one of the most loyal purveyors of the big lie that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. Let me tell you right now, the big lie is the big lie.
Yeah.
While he might seem like a comical figure, you know, but it goes on down. Mike Lindell says, and then it tells about pulling my ads from Fox News. Let me tell you why I pulled my ad from Fox News. Let's talk about that. By the way, where's Fox? They're not here. They couldn't be a weather channel because they wouldn't report.
They're lost. This is history.
Maybe they will report this. We, you know, Fox, if you're out there and you're watching, maybe you could kind of redeem yourself. But let me tell you, when I wanted to get this out, we have this one shot for the whole world to hear the evidence and hear what really happened and show everything, the 100% evidence.
100%.
Okay. Now, what I said, you know what? If Fox won't have me on to talk about anything, I'll buy an ad. I don't know if you all seen the ad. It's up there. It's a 1-minute ad talking about the Cyber Symposium. I gave it to all the media, ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox, everybody, because I was going to pay, which I have millions of dollars in those ads. And I put it and gave it to Fox, and Fox tried to delay. It comes back, we're not accepting the ad. So I'm supposed to sit here and go, you know what? You're part of the cancel culture. I'll tell you what. You think my money matters? It don't matter. Because I won't have a company. So I pulled my ad from Fox, and everyone's going, where are you going to spend that money now, Mike? You know, no, you don't get it. We're direct response. That cost my pillow $1 million a week by me pulling them ads. But it doesn't matter because we got one shot, and everyone out there reporting on this and sharing it to frankspeech.com to get up there. You think I needed a social media platform to put out like this? No, I built it because we were losing our voice. Your Twitters, your crooked Jack Dorseys and Mark Zuckerbergs of Facebook, they're criminals. They are criminals. They're going to be the first ones when we melt down the machines and make bars. But I'm just going through a couple of these because we're going to do these. The CEO Mike Bill, this is Yahoo News. They're horrible, everybody. Yahoo News, by the way. They're the ones, but they attacked me. Now realize, everybody, if I didn't have them, I did for 5 months, just like when they attacked Donald Trump in the summer of 15. You know, it's all I had. That's all I had. Every day I had to break stuff. Mike Lindell lost 4 more retailers, and all them journalists would call me. They're all on my phone, every one of them. Mike, you lost 4 more retailers. Did you hear about China and again attacking us with Dominion? Every day I had to do this because it was just to keep getting the word out. That's all I had because Fox, you ain't going to hear from them. It's disgusting. We counted on them. They turned on us, the night of the election, they said, oh, Arizona's good. No, it was way before that. When you can't talk about vaccines or anything or things that work when we're in the middle of a virus that's killing people and there's stuff out there that worked, and Fox was the first one to say, let's hunker down. You got to ask them, when this is all over, you got to ask them. They got to be held accountable. Why? Why would you not report the news? But here's what the report, Yahoo News. Mike Lindell, CEO, delays start of cyber support claiming he's been hacked. Mike Lindell, CEO and pro-Trump conspiracy theorist, delayed the start of his cyber. What is that? I want to ask you one. What does Donald Trump or Biden or any of this have to do with this? This is they hacked our country and they're here. And anybody out there that's a Democrat, you're the ones you've got to really open your eyes and unveil and really sit and listen for the next 3 days and listen to what we're talking about. This isn't about, here, I'll give you an example. Here's a cover-up. Brian Kemp down in Georgia. I mean, you guys just look for deviations. He's down in Georgia. After Georgia gets stole in the epic proportions through the machines, they have more machines than any state. Could be wrong, be able to check Facebook fact checkers. And what does he do? A couple months ago, Brian Kemp now he's all about election integrity, talking about paper ballots and worried about the mail-in ballots. That's a cover-up, you guys. It's the machines they got them. It's the computers. When they can take a whole country with one press of a button, that's where it is. That's all deflection and lies. But this guy puts on there, we need to get the word out because they blocked this thing. And anyway, Yahoo basically copied another. A lot of times they just prey off each other. This is what we're going to do. We're going to call them out. And so this whole symposium, And then we got it. And then this whole symposium, it's not just to show you the evidence here, right here in this room. It's you got to get out. Everyone's got to get out and tell everyone, watch, get here and watch it. When I got this done, I said a thing. And they made fun of that too, the media. It was about 3 weeks ago. You can look it up, Mike Lindell, Elvis Presley. When I was a kid in 1973, Elvis did a thing called Via Satellite Hello from Hawaii. It was seen by over 1 billion people. This is back when we had live stream to 1 billion people. This is back when we didn't have, we had TVs with bunny ears and black and white. You turn to watch the doc, go out. Well, during that time, how did they get the word out? Overseas, everywhere around the world. He never played overseas. So the word spread. Somehow it spread where 1 billion people, I think it was like 1/4 of the world's population watched it. Well, I made that analogy. This is a little more important than a concert. If nobody sees this in the next 3 days, it's just going to be like everything else because the media will destroy us. We get one shot at this, and so all I'm asking everybody to do, keep telling everybody every day, don't read this garbage. Don't read this garbage. I got a guy in here named Zach. He wants me to do an interview with him. All he does is hit jobs, garbage. Maybe absolutely, this is too important. There ain't no interviews I'm doing. It's right here. We've got to get the word out. We've got to get the word out.
I've got a suggestion. You should do an interview, but you should have them sit up here with us.
Yeah, there we go.
Every one of you coward
That is a great idea.
journalists, you want your interview? He's right here, but you got the ticket.
That
Your
is
mission
a great idea.
is to sit here at the table, look these people in the eye.
And do your interview, and then we'll see what you write. Zach, you want to be the first one? Where are you, Zach?
Come on up.
He's a coward. He ain't coming up. No, we want bad media.
Yeah.
No, I want the media here, the CNNs of the world. They have 8 people here. I give them credit. CNN has 8 people here. Fox, 0. By the way, we're going to do a mock election. The election room's going to be over here. I don't know if it's ready. Is the election room ready? Okay, come on up here. You guys, we're going to, come on up. We're going to do an election room. We're going to show you if Pat here is running the election room is over there. Where is it? Over there?
Right over there.
Okay, you guys, what we're going to do, you can take your time anytime and just go in there and vote. And we're going to vote. Who do you prefer? The worst, who's more to blame for our country right now? CNN or Fox? That's the first vote.
This is the remote.
So you're going to go in there and you're going to vote.
This is the one you use.
You're going to vote CNN or Fox. You're going to vote. What did you need? Okay. But you're going to vote CNN or Fox, and you're all going to go in there vote. And I'm going to tell you, there's 5 minutes left for the election, but then we're going to go in there, everybody, and we're going to have a hacker hack it.
Yep.
And we're going to flip the vote, whatever it ends up being. So let's say CNN was the worst, and Fox was over here. Whatever it was, we're going to ask, how many would you like flip? We're going to hack it and flip it in real time.
Hey, Mike.
Okay? On live TV.
We're going to go over, I'm going to give an overview of everything that's out there.
Okay. And you can do that in a second. But I'm going to tell you this. But one of the things I wanted to do is the routers. We're going to bring a cyber guy. We're going to go pick one of them back there. And he's going to capture, one of them in the other room doesn't know anything about it. We're going to capture the packet that's in the router. You're going to learn from Pat what all that is today. We're going to capture that packet, and the cyber guy is going to come in, and he's going to tell you exactly what happened. There's no way you can do it. You see the stuff over here, that data going over there on the thing? The stuff that's there, we can't read, but cyber guys can. A lot of you in the audience. So go ahead, Patrick. Tell them.
Yeah, we're going to be going through just an overview of elections overall, where some of the security breaches are, and best part is we're going to walk you through something that our development team put together literally in about 12 hours. So if you want to talk about expedited development timelines, I know who to contact whenever that happens. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Patrick Kolbeck. I'm a former Michigan State Senator. Please don't hold that against me. I was term limited. And but before I was a state senator, I was actually an engineer. And as an aerospace engineer, I worked on the cabling design for elements of the International Space Station. and I also am a certified Microsoft small business specialist. And the only reason I bring that up is because I've got a bit of a weird background, because I got 1 foot in public policy and understanding how the elections are supposed to work and what the laws are regarding that. And then I'm also a bit of a technical geek. So when you start talking about the keyword cyber symposium, you know, I can talk cyber. Not as good as some of the guys that put together this development that's out there, but I'll tell you, what they pulled together was amazing. They we'll go through exactly what they've got kicked into gear here in just a little bit, but one of the things that's driven me for these last 9 months is that I was actually there at the TCF Center in Detroit. Matter of fact, courtesy of my good friend Janice Daniels and good friend Debbie Haas at Election Integrity Fund, this is the actual election challenger badge that was worn by our poll challengers out at the TCF Center in Detroit. I was there from about 5 o'clock in the evening on election night to after 5:30 the next day. So it was a marathon session. So for those of you who are privy to all those photos of the pizza boxes over the windows, I was there. I was one of the folks blocked out of getting back in the into the voting area because of some bogus COVID rules that were put into place. I was training our next batch of poll challengers, highlighting what they could expect going into what was happening at all the different counting areas. I was there when the van came in at 3:30 in the morning to drop off a bunch of unsecured ballots. And I was there crawling around on the floor, checking Cat5 cables and seeing how they were connected, as we were talking about before. And I can tell you, these computers were connected to the internet, which is why the data that Mike is showing up here, Mike's data, is so important. There's no cyber symposium without cyber data. There's no cyber data without internet connections. So the whole topic of internet connectivity is a big one. And I didn't realize how big it was at the time. I was just focused on protecting the chain of custody regarding our elections. That's a very important topic that nobody ever seems to want to talk about, but I don't know about you, I was always very curious. I wanted to know how in Detroit at the AV Counting Board, they took a ballot that was counted by a tabulator. Sometimes it was needed adjudication, so there was an error and it had to go to what's called an adjudicator workstation. And then those results were transmitted out to all the media outlets that are here, right? How does that ballot follow through that chain? What's the handoff like for every single one of those handoffs? I wanted to verify that it was being done with integrity. And every single election official that I talked to, I asked them, are these connected to the internet? And I already knew the answer, but I asked them, are these connected to the internet? And they said no. I even asked one former state representative, David Nathan. I go, David, come on. Please, all you have to do to verify whether or not these are connected to the internet is roll your little mouse over the cursor here, or roll your mouse over the internet connectivity icon, the bottom right, and it'll pop up with the word saying connected to the internet. You know what? He didn't do that. And I go, well, why can't you do that? You go, you're just gonna have to trust me. I go, well, that's the whole idea of a poll challenger, is that we're challenging these assertions, right? And under our state law, I'm supposed to be able to ask those questions. All right, instead they said, talk to the hand. All 3 election officials that I talked to in that context said, talk to the hand. So I went back afterwards, diagrammed out a network topology diagram. I'm a geek. Well, that's what I do for fun. So I get back till like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm diagramming out what I saw there and put it into an affidavit form, because I couldn't take pictures while I was there as a poll challenger. They banned it. And as soon as I would have pulled out my camera to do that, I would have been kicked out of the TCF Center. But you know what happened a couple months ago? We actually have footage from the walkthrough that happened at the TCF Center before. And guess what they validated? They validated my network topology diagram and the fact that these were connected to the internet. All right, so you don't hear that anywhere. So that's why this is important. Remember, this is a cyber symposium. The idea of internet connectivity is very important. And what we're going to walk through over in that mock election center is very important as well, because we're actually going to show the PCAPs like Mike was talking about. We've got experts that can walk you through, as you're casting a vote, how's that information being communicated all the way through the system. That makes sense to everybody? Is that something you want to go off and see? All right, good stuff. Now this is just a homegrown system, and I'm going to walk through this in just a little bit, but I want you to understand that this is not specific to any one voting system company. They all have a common backbone known as SQL Server. How many people here love to play in SQL Server land? I believe it or not, I never thought this would come into play in my life. I used to deploy Microsoft Project Server all the time, and I would play in SQL Server every once in a while to move databases around. I never thought it would come in handy to go off and determine whether or not we had an integrity in our 2020 election. But God's got a sense of humor sometimes. And why this software is so important, because there's a special module in it called the SQL Server Management Studio. This SQL Server Management Studio, its ability is to go off and manipulate the database to provide whatever results you want. You can edit the results of an individual data table. You can go off and swap out one database with another database. You can execute scripts that modify the data in those databases as you see fit. And guess what? That software is not part of the certified software installation for any of our voting systems, yet we found it not just in Michigan, but in other states as well, installed on these databases. That should be a concern to everybody in this audience, because now we have non-certified software being installed on systems that led to a quote-unquote certified election. That's a big deal. How many of you guys even heard that SQL Server Management Studio is installed on these computers? Okay, better yet, how many people did not hear that they were installed? Now, hopefully you guys understand why Mike is so adamant about what's going on with our media. Everybody should have known that. Everybody should have known about the fact that these ES&S systems have a built-in 4G wireless modem on the motherboard, right? Everybody should know that stuff, but they're not talking about it. That's what drives me. Here I am 9 months after the election, I'm still talking about election fraud. Why is that? I put my whole professional career on hold just to make sure people get the truth out. Because frankly, nothing else matters in our country. I don't care about 2022. I don't care about 2024. We have to fix what happened in 2020. Which means we need to have a frank and open discussion about what happened in that 2020 election, which is why the data that Mike's sharing is so important, which is why the information that I've got back there on little palm cards provided by organizations like the Election Integrity Fund with these poll challengers. It's the grassroots, it's the everyday meddling kids from Scooby-Doo parlance that were the key to getting this information out, because we were let down by our election officials and we were let down by our elected officials. So it's been the meddling kids, and Mike's our the Fred in our Scooby-Doo Inc. Our Mystery Incorporated folks. He's got the van, all right. So we're all going around in the van, checking out all these different things that are going on, and I'll tell you, he's been invaluable in that context. But so has everybody else who has fed the information necessary to keep this going. So I want to thank each and every one of you that are here to help get that information out. It is critical. All right, so I'm going to walk through what we're going to talk about here today, the overall election process. And when I'm talking about election walkthrough, I'm just putting in context what we set up over in the mock election area. When you're considering securing an election, you have to consider what happens in preparation for the election, not just what happens on election day. So a lot of folks will sit there, including the CEO of Dominion, will sit there and say, hey, you know what? None of this stuff was connected to the internet during tabulation. Oh, that's a nice little caveat. I don't care when it's connected. I got an issue, right? But preparation is a big deal, because that's when you're going off and configuring your election equipment, right? That's when you're going off and telling them that a oval dot 1 inch down and 3 inches across corresponds to a vote for Biden or for Trump or whatever. That's when all that configuration is done. So that election day preparation is just as important as what happens on election day. You're supposed to have public accuracy tests that occur that verify the accuracy of the election. The EAC standard, or the Federal Election Commission standard, is 1 error in 250,000 scans, right? Because that's the purpose of having a machine. You want something that's reliable. It executes on a regular basis, a reliable basis, right? In Antrim County, they identified an error rate of 68%. And I'm a little rusty on my math because I've been studying this Common Core math thing for so long, but 1 over 250,000 I think is a little bit lower than 68%. What do you guys think? Who's the math genius out here? Yeah, so there's something wrong on the face of it right there, right? All right, so election day, and then, you know, you can play with these systems anytime before you actually certify the vote. There's all kinds of games that are played after election day. So don't think that, oh, since we don't see any timestamps of anything changing on November 3rd, then we're good. They don't stamp those elections till, in the case of our Wayne County, where I live, which is a home of Detroit, they don't certify that election for 2 weeks afterwards, and sometimes longer. There's a lot of room for them to go off and play games in the interim. And so I'm here to say, this life cycle that we're talking about election, if you think it's just about election day, think again. It's a lot longer than that. Now, we're going to simulate election day when we get back there, and maybe it could kind of bleed over into a little bit of the after the election stuff and see some of the games that are going to be played, but that's where I want to make sure everybody understands that. We're going to have a few different roles here. So we're going to have a voter. That's where you guys fit in. All right, we're going to bring you in kind of like a ride style at one of the big amusement parks. We're going to bring you in like groups of 10 or so, and you're going to come in. We're going to check for your ID, just so you know. It's not picture ID here. I don't know what South Dakota's laws are, but we may be violating them. Yeah, all right, picture ID. In Michigan, it's just optional. You know, we tried to get a picture ID, but we couldn't, you know. Thanks. So we're going to get you to show your picture ID, then we'll give you a ballot, we'll cast it, and then walk through. We've got a poll worker that's going to be going off there, taking the ballots and scanning them in. We got a clerk, and then we got this guy in a hood. And we're going to show how you can change the votes in a basic election system here that they developed in 12 hours and show how that can be manipulated through tools like this SQL Server Management Studio that nobody seems to want to talk about, that's non-certified software, yet it's finding its way onto a lot of our election systems. That should be something everybody should be talking about, right? All right, so the basic process is cast a vote, scan a ballot, tabulate it, transfer the vote tally. That's the way everything's supposed to work, right? One of the things that we have a lot of clerks that are well-intentioned, that swear that this was the, quote, most secure election in history, right? They're very adamant that what they're doing, they've executed everything to the T, they've dotted the I's, crossed the T's, and everything that they've done, and they're swearing that this has been a secure election. And I'm telling you, it's very, very possible that they are exactly genuine in those assertions, that they believe that that was the most secure election possible. But I'm telling you one thing here, that sometimes they don't know what they don't know. All right? How many clerks do you know that would be, you know, inquisitive enough to pop open the chassis on their voting machine and then have the chutzpah to be able to go in there and see, this is a 4G wireless modem, what's it doing on my motherboard? How many clerks do you know that do that? Nobody does that. Nobody. Even the geekiest clerk I've ever met would never do that. I'm a geek as it is, right? And I wouldn't even think of doing that. I'm assuming that we're getting certified equipment that has a nice little EAC sticker on the side, so it's got to be good, right? This is where one of the folks in the back here, Sean, just highlights that our security model around certifying the configurations of our election system are based on a compliance model. It's kind of like the FAA with their parts on it. Rather than actually going in and digging into every single part and making sure that you've only got certified software installed on that machine, or you've only got certified hardware configurations, they just say, well, if it came from this guy, it's got to be good. That's dangerous, right? Especially because I see little evidence that they're putting any rigor into the hardware certification, and on the software side of the fence, I'm not seeing a lot of rigor applied in that context either. So when I was in the grassroots, I FOIA'd all 83 counties in the state of Michigan for a software audit for each one of their voting systems. Guess how many replied and gave me the information? Yep, everybody said 0. Maybe we'll have that as one of our mock election votes here. 0 or 83? It was 0. Maybe we can use ranked choice voting. So this is a big deal, all right? So they're not getting us the access to this information, and that's probably most concerning about all this. If what we were talking about was completely false, if this was truly the most secure election in history, why not open the door and let us go off and take a peek at what's under the hood? Why wouldn't you do that? There's an old political adage, if somebody's busy making a fool out of himself with false accusations and false assertions, you let them talk, right? You just let them talk. But when they're telling the truth, and the truth that you don't want to hear, they will shut you down. And that is what's happening here. To the extent that we've got our state governments being weaponized against individuals, including myself, where even Republicans are going off and saying, you know, we don't want to deal with this whole election fraud thing anymore. Let's move on, focus in on the 2022 elections. The same people who say that there is no issues with election fraud in the 2020 election, all of a sudden decide that, hey, you know what, we need to pass a bunch of new legislation to make sure we protect the integrity of our elections. Well, if nothing's wrong, what the heck are they trying to fix? Right? Think about it. All right, I know we're living in a 2 + 2 = 5 world now, so maybe that doesn't register sometimes, but you know what? It's about time that we got serious about protecting the integrity of our election. We're going to give a small window into how those elections are executed, just to give you an idea how vulnerable these electronic voting systems are. I'm a big, Dr. Frank coined the term vote Amish. So if you guys want to start a hashtag vote Amish, I think that's appropriate, because it's not that electronic voting systems aren't convenient. They are. The issue with electronic voting systems is that we don't have the ability to go off and make sure that we can certify the integrity of each of these elections properly before casting a vote with it. Plus, here's a big difference, and it's kind of like the national popular vote versus electoral college discussion, right? We have natural firewalls called precincts. So if you've got corruption in one precinct or 2 precincts or 3 precincts, oh well, we got corruption in that 1 or 2 precincts, right? But once you put that into an electronic mode and you network that information together, now all of a sudden you're enabling one person from their basement, maybe Hunter Biden, you know, with his 6th laptop that we haven't seen yet. Somebody in their basement can go off and hack an entire election. Now, I'm not proposing one person would do something like that. I'm more proposing like a whole building in Beijing that would be going off and doing that. But you centralize those elections and centralize the ability to manipulate the votes. Now, all of a sudden, you are making some of these broad scenarios around election fraud much, much more plausible. And if you go vote Amish instead, now all of a sudden, you're making it much more difficult. And you're going to have a lot more folks that are going to be more akin to saying this isn't right, and they'll become whistleblowers in what happens. There's a lot more people to go off and call out what happens. And wouldn't it be nice to have some whistleblowers coming out on some of these electronic voting systems? Wouldn't it be nice to encourage them in Project Veritas mode with James O'Keefe and those guys? Wouldn't it be nice to have some of these guys get a conscience and say this ain't right? All right, that's what we need to be happening. So, all right, this is modified a little bit from this is an old presentation, guys. So configuration control applies to PowerPoint presentations as well as software and hardware configurations on your voting systems. And this is case in point. Bottom line is, I hope you guys are concerned about the integrity of our voting process. If you want to go off and see it, on how an electronic voting system, modern system works today, just come on back there. We got some technical experts that are brilliant. They'll be able to walk you through some of this, and I just encourage you to stop on by. We're going to be, as Mike was talking about, we're going to be doing mock elections throughout the events here today, or throughout today, tomorrow, and the day after here, just to have some fun, give you guys a chance to go off and delve into it, and have a little bit of fun, but also hopefully learn a little bit about how vulnerable these election systems really are. It's a network that we've got set up. And I want to point out How many hackers are still left in here versus out in the breakout rooms? All right, well, many of you guys know some hackers, right? So our tech guy said, you know what? Let's issue a little bit of a challenge, shall we? There's a Wi-Fi network in here called Minion Wireless. And if you are a hacker, you know how to get through that and connect to that wireless system, use it to get into our mock election system. So that is a challenge for everybody that's here. Call it audience participation, all right? So the hackers get to go off and do that. And then the rest of us, please just join us there throughout the day. This is casual. You go to take a little break or whatever, and you just want to go in and vote. Stop on in there, and about 10 at a time, we'll just bring you in there, walk you through a vote and through the election process, and you guys can ask questions to all the folks that are back there. Does that sound like a plan? Sound interesting? Okay, guys, well, I think, let me just double check here. I think we're all set. There is a lot to do with this electronic voting system. I hope you guys delve into it. If you go up to my website at letsfixstuff.org, I'll go off and highlight the fallacy of the term air gap. How many of you guys have heard the term air gap? Do you guys know what air gap means? It means that the vendor wants to tell his client that these aren't connected to the internet. That's what air gap means. That's all it means. And what they'll do is they'll cite jargon like air gap to the clerks they got to ask the next level question saying, wait a minute, how is it secured? Okay, you're using a VPN. All right, well, who's securing it? Who's providing the credentials for this? Where are those credentials stored? Can somebody hack those credentials? Well, I mean, anybody who's been to a hackathon has gone off and seen some of what's available to go off and get access to it. People can blast through VPNs if they want. There's other ways of getting those credentials besides brute force that they can get access to it. The other thing is firewalls. They say, okay, we're air gap because we got a firewall in there. All that does is control the ports traffic that are open to somebody. That doesn't keep out a hacker worth their salt from getting in the system. Once you're in the firewall, you're in that whole network. Anything that's connected to it, including a Nest thermostat, as we found out in Georgia, right? If you can get into anything on that stuff, you can get in and have some fun in that network and go off and play with the results yourself. That's why electronic voting systems are so concerning. So